Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 12 of this 30-day Living an Authentic Life Challenge. Whew, this challenge is moving right along, and I cover 12 topics so that you can have a great impact. And today, you get the chance to hear number 12 so that you can maximize what you need to do, but still have enough focus and able to apply the insight from each of these. So today's discussion is about legacy. Legacy, when I think about it, is simply having a lasting impact. And that can be an event or a person. It can be positive or negative. But I strongly encourage you that when you start creating the legacy that you want to have received, let it be a positive one. But here's another thing about legacy: every day of every moment, you are building the blocks towards your legacy anyway. Somebody is being impacted by you right here, right now, today, and it will be carried on. One of my greatest impacts, some of you know, some of you don't, but my grandmother raised me. And Willa Mae C. Sims was a powerhouse. Her name is not listed on any of the monuments in Washington, D.C., but her love and support and the changes that she made in the community, those are still felt. The effect of that still exists today. And for those individuals that know my grandmother, you all are fully aware that she was really big about naming things. She often told me that, baby, if you can name it, you can deal with it. When we name things, be it people, places, or things, it gives us a way of sort of making it tangible so that we can manage things appropriately. When you name people, oh, she was really big on being certain that you called someone by their name. My great grandmother, she was more adamant about not calling people by nicknames. If the name that their mama gave them is not the name that you are saying, then you need to check yourself and correct yourself. Essie didn't play either. But my grandmother would often tell me that you often need to call someone by their name because the sound of someone's name is so precious in their sight. There are communities and cultures that have naming ceremonies because of the importance of it. She would often say that when you name a child, give them a name of meaning. It's a name that will often characterize their being. It's a name that people will always say about them. And whatever the meaning of that name is, it will have an impact that is more lasting than anything else that that child will have in their world. So think about the names. When you hear these names, what comes to mind? Martin, Elizabeth, Jacob, Gandhi. When you hear the names of certain places, what comes to mind? When you hear Barbados, Jamaica, Aruba, or Italy, there is something that has already been tagged to those names, an event for the places that I discussed, or for the people's names, whether they were famous names or names that were just anonymous to some. There's something that's about those names that has a certain semblance of power and authority. The name carries with it some of the parts, even if that person was not related to someone. But if that name was a name that had power, if that name was a name that carried some sort of construct that people have already thought about before anyone ever meets someone with that name, it already carried some element of their characteristic with it. There are cultures that have naming ceremonies that they use typically just to introduce a child into their family. And some people are so adamant about that naming that they won't even name the child for several days until they can get a glimpse of that child's characteristic so that they don't misname that individual. So, what do you do about names? What are your thoughts about that? And what legacy do you feel your name is carrying? You see, for a long time, I was known as May's grandchild. There did come a moment in my world where I had to be clear. When people heard the name Tanya E. Hood, what came to mind? What comes to mind for those of you that know me? So put your comments in the chat of this video, or if you're looking at me on Facebook, because we're streaming in a couple of different places. When you hear my name, what comes to mind? When people hear your name, What do you want to come to mind? We're going to go deeper in that conversation. So I encourage you to join me for day 12, Legacy. We're going to have the extended discussion because you all that are watching this either on YouTube or in some elements of the Facebook and are not inside of the Living in Authenticity Facebook group, you're just getting a snippet. Don't let this snippet be your only moment in this challenge. I show up every day for 30 days so that you can have someone to walk you through the impact to make this challenge stick so it can be the legacy that you want to have in the future to make impacts on generations to come. If you haven't registered yet, go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There you can click under the registration tab and still be able to join us quickly because I shut down. At 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be done for today, but I'll be back tomorrow. So I encourage you to join me. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.